Right then, Forest faithful, settle in. Because what I'm about to tell you will have you absolutely buzzing with pride, scratching your head in confusion, and perhaps shouting at your screen all at once. The past few days at the City Ground have been nothing short of extraordinary. We're talking about seismic shifts that could reshape how this club operates for years to come. 5 massive stories have emerged, and I mean massive. The kind that'll have you telling your mates down the pub for months. First up, we've got a legal battle that sends shockwaves through the entire English football establishment. The powers that be have been left red-faced, embarrassed, and frankly exposed. Our beloved Reds didn't just win, they absolutely demolished the system in a way that'll make every Premier League club sit up and take notice. Then there's the deadline day drama that nobody saw coming. A Ukrainian international, a Champions League winner, landing at the City Ground on loan. But here's the kicker. There's a massive twist about when he can actually pull on the Garibaldi. Speaking of twists, one of our young defenders finds himself in a peculiar situation. Millions spent, expectations high, but something's gone sideways with European competition. The lad's story will make you question everything about modern football transfers. Our gaffer's been having sleepless nights, and it's all down to the one that got away. A winger he desperately wanted, someone he knew could be the missing piece of his tactical puzzle. The frustration runs deeper than you might imagine, and it's affecting relationships at the very top. And finally, we've snatched a teenage sensation from under the noses of Europe's elite. West Ham thought they had him locked down, but our recruitment team had other ideas. This lad could be the future of Forest. Or will he join the long list of wonder kids who never quite made it? Now, before I dive into these earth-shattering revelations, I need to ask you something crucial. Which of these stories excites you most? The David versus Goliath legal triumph, the high-profile loan signing, or perhaps the teenage prodigy who's got everyone talking? Right, smash that like button now. Seriously, do it. Because once I start revealing names and details, you'll be too busy picking your jaw up off the floor. Drop a comment below with your prediction about which story will shock you most. The first revelation is going to blow your mind completely, and it involves taking on the entire English football establishment and winning. For decades, they've been untouchable. The Football Association, with their committees, their disciplinary panels, their sense of absolute authority over English football. Club after club has bent the knee, accepted their punishments, paid their fines, and moved on quietly. But not Nottingham Forest. Oh no, not our Forest. What I'm about to tell you involves a battle that rocked the very foundations of English football's establishment. A legal earthquake that had media outlets scrambling to use words like landmark and embarrassing in the same sentence as the FA. We're talking about Evangelos Marinakis and his football club taking on the system and absolutely destroying them in court. Picture this, it's spring 2024 and we're facing Everton. The referee situation gets heated, particularly around Stuart Atwell at VAR. Forest complained he was unsuitable, but the officials ignored us. Match day arrives, and surprise, surprise, a catalog of errors that VAR mysteriously couldn't correct. Our club's response? A social media post calling Atwell a Luton supporter that reached 40 million views. Brutal? Yes. Justified? You tell me. The FA's reaction was predictable and vindictive. They charged us with bringing the game into disrepute and demanded a staggering $1 million fine. In the first hearing, they got most of what they wanted, a $910,000 punishment. But here's where it gets juicy. The judge, Jamie McPherson, dismissed our defense as hysterical. That single word would come back to haunt him and expose the entire system's bias. Fast forward to the appeal process. In an act of breathtaking arrogance, the FA appointed the same Jamie McPherson to preside over our appeal. The same man who'd already made his mind up about us. The same individual who'd used inflammatory language to describe our position. Even McPherson himself eventually realized how ridiculous this looked and recused himself from the case. But the damage was done. The mask had slipped. Forest didn't roll over. We pursued this all the way to arbitration, arguing that McPherson's involvement demonstrated clear bias. The 3-member panel under Kim Franklin agreed completely, ruling that apparent bias had been proven. The result? The FA was forced into an embarrassing climb down, ordered to pay Forest a significant 6-figure compensation sum. But the money isn't the real victory here, it's the precedent. It's proving that these supposedly infallible authorities can be challenged, can be wrong, and most importantly, can be held accountable. This isn't just about Forest. It's about every club that's been bullied by biased panels, every fan who's watched their team get stitched up by officials who should be impartial. Manchester City with their 115 charges, Chelsea with their own investigations. Every club in the Premier League will be watching how this precedent develops. Forest have shown that you can fight the system and win. The establishment has been exposed, and it's beautiful to watch. This is what happens when you take on a club that refuses to be intimidated. What do you think about this legal victory? Should more clubs follow Forest's example and challenge the FA's authority when bias is evident? Drop your thoughts below, because this is just the beginning of today's revelations. The next story involves a Champions League winner who's just walked through our doors, but there's a massive catch that'll leave you stunned. Parte 3, Noticia. Number 2, Zinchenko arrival. 4,500 characters. Deadline day madness at the City Ground reached fever pitch when news broke that had Forest fans doing double takes at their phones. A Ukrainian international, a Premier League title winner, a Champions League veteran heading to Nottingham on loan. This isn't just any player we're talking about. This is someone who's lifted trophies at the highest level, who's been part of machine-like teams that dominated English and European football. Ladies and gentlemen, Alexander Zinchenko is now a Nottingham Forest player. Let that sink in for a moment. A player who was instrumental in Manchester City's golden era, who helped Arsenal challenge for the Premier League title, has chosen to continue his career in the Garibaldi. The 28-year-old Ukraine international brings experience, versatility, and a winning mentality that money simply can't buy. Nuno Espirito Santo had identified full-back reinforcement as an absolute priority, and the club delivered in spectacular fashion. Zinchenko joins Cuiabano and Nicolo Savona as deadline day additions, giving the Portuguese manager options he could only dream of weeks ago. Chief Football Officer Ross Wilson didn't hold back in his praise. Alex's pedigree speaks for itself. He was a big part of an extremely successful Manchester City team and played an important role for Arsenal in recent years. He brings invaluable experience to Nottingham Forest. But here's where this story takes an absolutely bizarre twist that'll have you questioning the modern game's logic. Despite signing for Forest, despite completing his medical, despite recording welcome videos for our social media channels, Zinchenko will not be available for our first match back after the international break. Why? Because we're playing at the Emirates Stadium against Arsenal, his parent club. The loan terms specifically prohibit him from playing against the Gunners. So while Forest fans will finally get to see their new Ukrainian hero in action, it won't be until September 20th away at Burnley. Talk about an anticlimactic debut timeline. This raises fascinating tactical questions for Nuno. He's been crying out for fullback options all summer. Finally gets a world-class addition, but can't use him in arguably one of the toughest fixtures of the season. The irony is almost poetic. Zinchenko himself seems genuinely excited about the challenge ahead, recording a message saying, "Hi guys, I'm so happy to join Nottingham Forest and so excited for the season ahead. I can't wait to meet you all there." The player's arrival represents more than just squad depth. It's a statement of intent. Forest are no longer content with mere survival. They're building something special. When players of Zinchenko's caliber choose the City Ground over other options, it speaks volumes about the project Evangelos Marinakis is constructing. Tactically, his versatility offers Nuno multiple solutions. Left back, right back, central midfield. Zinchenko has excelled in all positions during his career. His technical ability and football intelligence could elevate the entire team's performance. The Ukrainians' experience in European competition will prove invaluable as Forest prepare for their Europa League campaign. He's played in Champions League finals, faced the world's best players, and won trophies most footballers can only dream of. For a club that was fighting relegation not too long ago, attracting a player of Zinchenko's stature represents remarkable progress. It shows ambitious players that Forest means business, that this isn't just another relegation battle, but a genuine project with European aspirations. The competition for places in Nuno's starting echelon just became incredibly fierce, and that's exactly what every successful team needs. Do you think Zinchenko's arrival proves Forest are now a genuinely attractive destination for top players? Can his experience help push us to the next level? Let me know in the comments below. But if you think deadline day drama was crazy, wait until you hear about the young defender whose European dreams have hit an unexpected roadblock. Modern football transfers can be brutal, unforgiving, and sometimes downright bizarre. What I'm about to tell you perfectly encapsulates everything wrong with how young talents are treated in today's game. Remember the excitement when Forest splashed out significant money on a promising young defender. The hope, the expectation, the belief that we'd found the next big thing. Well, that story has taken a rather disappointing turn. We're talking about Jair, the 20-year-old Brazilian centre-back who arrived with such fanfare after impressing at the Club World Cup. Botafogo sold him to Forest for $12 million. That's roughly $10.5 million, expecting the lad to develop into a key player for both club and potentially country. But here's where this tale becomes frustratingly familiar to any football fan who's watched promising youngsters struggle to adapt to new environments. Despite the significant investment, despite the high hopes, Jair finds himself in footballing limbo at the City ground. The harsh reality? He hasn't been registered for Forest's Europa League squad. Let that sink in. A player signed for serious money can't even participate in European competition. His Premier League involvement has been minimal at best. While he was included in the matchday squad for the season opener against Brentford, he's since disappeared from the matchday picture entirely. 2 subsequent league matches, and Jair didn't even make the bench. The statistics paint a stark picture of a transfer that simply hasn't worked out as anyone hoped. 6 months at Botafogo, 22 appearances, 1 goal, then straight into the English football machine where he's barely featuring. What makes this situation even more frustrating is the financial reality. Botafogo originally paid Santos $12 million for Jair, then sold him to Forest for exactly the same amount. No profit, no loss. Just a young player's development stalled by a move that seemed logical on paper, but hasn't translated to on-field success. This raises serious questions about Forest's recruitment strategy and player integration. How do you spend over $10 million on a defender and then fail to find space for him in your European squad? What went wrong in the assessment process? Nuno Espirito Santo clearly doesn't see Jair as part of his immediate plans, but this creates a dilemma. The lad is still only 20 years old, still learning his trade, still adapting to English football's unique demands. Writing him off completely seems premature, yet his absence from key squads suggests the manager's patience is wearing thin. The situation becomes even more complicated when you consider Forest's defensive options. We've invested in multiple centre-backs, creating competition that should theoretically improve everyone's performance. But for Jair, that competition has become a barrier rather than motivation. Brazilian football experts who watched him at Botafogo insist his quality remains evident. But Premier League football is a different beast entirely. The physicality, the pace, the tactical complexity. It's a massive step up from South American football. And not every talented young player makes that transition successfully. John Textor, who owns both Botafogo and has interest in Forest's ownership structure, must be watching this situation with concern. The plan was presumably to develop young talents across his football network, but Jair's struggles highlight how complex these multi-club strategies can become. What's particularly unfortunate is the timing. At 20, Jair should be playing regular football, gaining experience, making mistakes, and learning from them. Instead, he's trapped in a situation where his development has stagnated. The Europa League squad omission sends a clear message about his immediate future at Forest. While John and Igor Jesus, other Brazilian connections, made the European squad, Jair was left out entirely. For Forest fans, this situation represents both frustration and hope. Frustration that a significant investment hasn't yielded immediate returns, but hope that patience and proper development might still unlock his potential. Do you think Forest should persevere with Jair or cut their losses? Is this just growing pains for a young player or evidence of a transfer mistake? Share your thoughts below. The next revelation involves our manager's biggest disappointment this summer, and it's causing more problems than you might imagine. Behind every successful football manager lies a web of relationships, compromises, and occasionally bitter disappointments that can fracture the harmony between coaching staff and recruitment teams. What I'm about to reveal exposes the growing tension at the heart of Nottingham Forest's decision-making structure, and it centers around one player our manager desperately wanted but couldn't get. The relationship between Nuno Espirito Santo and the club's recruitment team has become increasingly strained, and the catalyst for this friction involves a winger who knows the Portuguese coach better than most. We're talking about Adama Traoré, the explosive Fulham winger who worked under Nuno during their successful period together at Wolverhampton Wanderers. When Anthony Elanga's $52 million move to Newcastle left a gaping hole on Forest's right flank, Nuno believed he had identified the perfect replacement. Not just any winger, but someone he understood completely, someone whose complex personality and unique skill set he could unlock once again. Nuno's reasoning was tactically sound and psychologically astute. Firstly, he genuinely believed he knew how to extract the best from Traoré, having previously transformed the Spaniard into one of the Premier League's most feared attacking threats at Wolves. Secondly, and perhaps more importantly, Nuno recognized that Traoré's mere presence could terrorize opposition defenses. Even when not starting matches, simply seeing the Spanish speedster warming up on the touchline would send nervous ripples through defensive lines. But here's where this story becomes a masterclass in football politics and competing visions. While Nuno pushed relentlessly for the Traoré reunion, other targets were being prioritized by the recruitment team. The Athletic reports that this disagreement became a source of frustration for Nuno, suggesting the tension ran deeper than simple tactical preferences. The manager's relationship with Chief Football Officer Edu has reportedly deteriorated over this specific transfer saga. When a coach feels his tactical vision is being undermined by recruitment decisions, it creates an uncomfortable working environment that affects everyone. Instead of Traoré, Forest secured Dan Ndoye from Bologna and later splashed $35 million on Delaine Bakwa from Strasbourg on deadline day. Both excellent players in their own right, but neither possessing the specific attributes Nuno craved from his former Wolves star. This situation perfectly illustrates modern football's complex power structures. Managers want specific players who fit their tactical systems, but recruitment teams must balance those desires against budget constraints, wage structures, and alternative opportunities. Nuno's frustration becomes more understandable when you consider his precarious position at the club. His future has been questioned repeatedly, with reports suggesting Forest could move in a different direction if results don't improve quickly. When a manager feels his job security is threatened, being denied key transfer targets becomes exponentially more frustrating. Traoré represented familiarity, proven chemistry, and guaranteed tactical understanding, luxuries that coaches under pressure desperately need. The irony is that Delaine Bakwa might actually provide many of the attributes Nuno sought from Traoré. The Frenchman offers pace, power, and crucially significantly better end product than the Spaniard has ever consistently delivered. Bakwa contributed 14 goal contributions for Strasbourg last season, suggesting he could provide both the dynamism Nuno wanted and the clinical finishing that Traoré has always lacked. But football isn't just about statistics and logical analysis. It's about relationships, trust, and understanding between players and coaches. Nuno knew exactly how to motivate Traoré, how to position him tactically, how to maximize his unique strengths while minimizing his weaknesses. This transfer saga reveals a delicate ecosystem within football clubs. When coaches and recruitment teams aren't aligned, it affects team chemistry, tactical preparation, and ultimately on-field performance. The question now is whether Nuno can adapt his tactical vision to incorporate his new wingers effectively, or whether the Traoré disappointment will continue to influence his relationship with the club's hierarchy. What do you think? Was the club right to prioritize other targets over Traoré, or should they have backed their manager's instincts? Does this kind of disagreement concern you about our internal harmony? Comment below with your thoughts, because the final story involves a teenage sensation who could be the answer to all our future problems. In an era where football clubs throw astronomical sums at established stars, sometimes the most exciting business happens in the shadows, involving teenagers most fans have never heard of, but who could define a club's future. What Forest have just pulled off represents a masterstroke in long-term planning, a signing that had Europe's elite clubs gnashing their teeth in frustration. We're talking about the acquisition of Chinaza Nwosu, a 17-year-old midfielder whose potential has sparked a continental bidding war that Forest have somehow won. This isn't just another academy signing to pad out the youth ranks. According to Fabrizio Romano, and when that man speaks, football listens, multiple top European clubs were chasing this lad's signature. The fact that Forest convinced him to choose the city ground over potentially more glamorous destinations speaks volumes about our project's credibility. Nwosu was developing nicely at West Ham United, a club renowned for nurturing young English talent. But Forest's recruitment team identified something special in this teenager and moved decisively to secure his services. The timing is absolutely crucial here. At 17, Nwosu represents pure potential, a blank canvas that Forest coaching staff can shape according to their tactical vision. Unlike expensive senior signings who arrive with established playing styles and habits, young players like Nwosu can be molded into exactly what the club needs. But this signing raises fascinating questions about Forest's strategic direction. While Nuno Espirito Santo battles for immediate Premier League survival and European qualification, the club's hierarchy is investing in players who might not impact the first team for several years. This dual approach, senior signings for immediate improvement, youth acquisitions for future success, suggests a mature, sustainable model that could serve Forest brilliantly in the long term. The excitement surrounding Nwosu's arrival is palpable among Forest's academy staff. When a 17-year-old generates interest from major European clubs, it typically indicates exceptional technical ability, tactical intelligence, or physical attributes that set them apart from their peers. Chief Scout and Academy Director will be working overtime to ensure Nwosu's development pathway is carefully planned. The jump from West Ham's academy to Forest's first-team environment requires careful management, particularly given the pressure cooker atmosphere of Premier League football. History is littered with teenage sensations who never fulfilled their early promise, but it's equally filled with late bloomers who transformed into world-class performers under the right guidance. Forest's challenge is creating the perfect environment for Nwosu to flourish. The financial implications are significant too. While the transfer fee hasn't been disclosed, securing a player that multiple European clubs wanted suggests Forest outbid some serious competition. This represents faith in the club's scouting network and confidence in their ability to develop young talent. For Forest fans, Nwosu's signing represents hope and excitement about the future. In an age where Premier League survival often requires immediate solutions, investing in 17-year-old potential shows the club hasn't lost sight of sustainable, long-term success. The pressure on young players in modern football can be overwhelming, but Forest's recent track record with youth development suggests they understand how to nurture talent without overwhelming promising youngsters. Nwosu's versatility as a midfielder offers tactical flexibility for future Forest teams. Whether he develops into a defensive shield, creative playmaker, or box-to-box dynamo will depend largely on coaching guidance and his own natural inclinations. The broader message this signing sends is perhaps most important of all. Forest aren't just competing for established stars anymore. They're winning battles for the game's most promising youngsters, suggesting the club's reputation and project appeal to players at every level. This transfer represents investment in Forest's future, gambling on potential rather than proven quality. It's exactly the kind of smart business that transforms mid-table clubs into consistent competitors. What do you make of signing teenage prospects while fighting for Premier League stability? Is this smart long-term planning or misplaced priorities? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. As we reflect on these 5 extraordinary stories, one thing becomes crystal clear. Nottingham Forest is no longer the club that merely hopes to survive. We're challenging authorities, attracting international stars, investing in future generations, and refusing to accept mediocrity. From legal victories that embarrass football's establishment to teenage signings that excite European scouts, Forest are writing a new chapter in their remarkable story. The question isn't whether this club has ambition, it's how high those ambitions will ultimately reach. What excites you most about Forest's current direction? The legal battles, the star signings, or the investment in youth? Smash that like button, subscribe for more Forest content, and let me know in the comments which story shocked you most. And here's my promise to you. Next week, I'll be diving deep into how these changes affect Forest's tactical setup and what it means for our Europa League campaign. Trust me, you won't want to miss it.